So why statues? Well, consider it's an adaptation of League of Legends. As the name suggests, these characters are supposed to be legends within their universe. And what better way to emphasise this point by presenting them as statues, much like how in our world's history, we've made statues of mythical figures and famous people to commemorate and immortalise them, invoking that legendary status. The first half of the opening establishes the characters we'll be following as well as giving us a general overview of their characters. Some are easy to understand on a surface level. For example, Vander is depicted holding Vi and powder in his hands with a light shining inside. He is protecting the innocence and bright future of Zorn that are these two girls. Looming over him is Silco. The sinister red light from his eye, contrasting the pure light within Vander's hand, conveys that Vi and powder must be protected from him. Some, on the other hand, take a bit more thought. The 2 to 3 I want to focus on are at the very beginning, with Powder's, Victor's and Caitlyn's. Powder and Victor's segments share the same structure in which these statues are trapped within the mould, yet to be sculpted. Of course, this represents these characters going through the most change out of all the characters in the series. The presentation of this change in the series reminds me of the famous Michelangelo quote about sculptors. The sculpture is already complete within the marble block. Before I start my work, it is already there. I just have to chisel away at the superfluous material. Take note of the superfluous material section. Powder's statue comes from the superfluous material of Vi's while still being attached to it. Of course, this is very reminiscent of Powder's dependency on her older sister, looking for her to comfort, reassurance and advice. You could also say this foreshadows her "you created Jinx" line to Vi from episode 9. Also note how Powder is being sculpted from the material that's behind Vi, which is first hidden behind Vi's shadow. Once Powder is in focus, Vi's statue becomes a shadow. Not only does this present that Powder is in the shadow of her sister at this point in her life, but the second half can also convey that Powder eventually goes on to overshadow her sister once she's older. Victor, on the other hand, still has his superfluous material around where his legs should be. The most obvious connection is Victor's disability, which affects his ability to walk, highlighting that this part of the story surrounding Victor's character will involve his own personal struggles and how he goes about that. With Caitlyn's section, she's first depicted embedded inside the wall, like she's part of the system, that's being built over. Also, note how she's the first depicted under shadows, representing how she's been sheltered and ignorant to the reality of the world around her. When the intro drops into the chorus, we see most of the statues completed, becoming more dynamic in their actions, surrounded by shards of stone breaking around them as if they're breaking out of their stasis. Think of the same breaking the mould, which means to end a restrictive pattern of events by doing something new. This section makes references to parts of the show that have our characters breaking the mould of their world. For example, we see Echo in his Firelight's mask, a group he formed in order to fight Silco and the Ken Barons, in order to bring a new beginning to Zorn. We see Caitlyn taking aim with her rifle. Specifically, this is from episode 5 where she rescues Vi from Savika. Episode 5 is the episode where everything begins to change and take form. Vi gets the news that Jinx has been taken in by Silco, who, meanwhile baptises Jinx, want her to let her past die. Jace becomes more involved in politics than Mel. Victor's condition gets worse, which also inadvertently prompts a new breakthrough when his blood merges with the Hex Core. For Caitlyn, it's her finally getting to see Zorn for what it really is and her finally getting an aim on her goals. That being to protect the citizens of both cities. Victor's segments are from his running scene in episode 8. Not only is this a personal breakthrough for Victor, as this is the first time he can run in his life, as established from his flashback in episode 6, but it's also the result of an extreme measure taken to get to that point. That being Victor going rogue and using Shimmer in an experiment after his blood wasn't making any progress. Jace is shown using his Mercury Hammer. While the invention of Hextech itself can qualify for breaking the mould, as it's the first time in this universe that technology and magic have been combined and used in this way, this specific instance was the first time Hextech was weaponized with the intent of it being used as a weapon. Of course, the Hex Gates and Hexclaw do have potential to be used as weapons, but remember, their intended use was for mining and crafting respectively. It's also significant because Jace and Victor promised not to make any weapons or kill using Hextech. Breaking his promise is not only a broken promise, but is also another nail in the coffin of safeguarding Hextech, the final one being Jinx's attack on the Council with a Hextech-powered rocket launcher. Finally, before the title shows up, we see Jinx and Vi getting ready to battle each other. While this specific setup isn't shown until Season 2, it does highlight how their relationship is left at the end of Season 1. The once strong bond between the two sisters has fallen apart. Everything they've been through throughout the series and their 6 and 7 years of separation has put a huge rift through it where both struggle to come to terms with who the other has become. Vi has someone who she loves just as much as her sister, and Jinx is no longer the scared little tinkerer and is now one of the most dangerous individuals in the city. These differences are what led to their eventual clash in Season 2.